Good morning. I'd like to call to order the meeting for today. Welcome to this meeting of the Oklahoma Aerospace and Aeronautics Commission, January 22nd, 2025. The meeting notice was posted according to the requirements of the Open Meeting Act. This meeting will come to order. Call roll, please.
First Congressional District Commissioner, Secretary Seth Phillips.
Here.
Second Congressional District Commissioner, Vice Chairman Kevin Potter. Third Congressional District Commissioner, Charles Ortega.
Here.
Fourth Congressional District Commissioner, Lindy Ritz.
Here.
Fifth Congressional District Commissioner, Chairman Blake Rainey.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jim Putnam.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jerry Hunter.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of the minutes. The draft of the minutes of the December 11, 2024 Commission meeting has been sent to you, and a copy is in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes before we consider them for approval? If there are none, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Call to roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Chairman Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Abstain.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. First up is item 4, financial report. Chris, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Good to see you all today. As of December 31st, the department had an ending cash balance of about $23.8 million, with encumbrances totaling $23.2 million. Leaves us with an unencumbered cash balance of $608,000. Estimated statutory revenue for the remainder of FY25 is $11.4 million, and outstanding reimbursements owed to the agency total around $3.5 million. The total amount of remaining expenditures that could be incurred this fiscal year, which is June, is $26.7 million, with the bulk of that, about $18 million, being airport construction program grants, provided that they are approved and executed. If all of that happened, it would leave us with an expected available cash balance after encumbrances and expected income of negative $11 million. As I report every month, we're obviously not going to pay out that full amount of all the airport stuff. But again, that along with that unencumbered cash balance does go to show, although we may have a high cash balance, we are putting all of that into projects just as quick as we can. Moving on to the revenue, total statutory revenue collected for the month of December was $4.4 million. Nearly all of that of which was aircraft excise tax. As far as I can tell, that's one of the largest, if not the largest, monthly collections we've ever received as an agency. Total statutory revenue collected through December this fiscal year is $7.5 million. That compares to $4.5 million through December of last year. So we're up about 66% year over year. And then finally, for the 3-year average revenue, revenue collected from aircraft registration fees, excise tax, fuel tax, and the license plates is about $3.3 million more than what our 3-year average is, again, due to that single collection last month. Did want to also report, since we're halfway through the year, on our prep funds. Those funds are not included in this normal financial report because that is just our reoccurring revenue. But for the prep funds, as of December 31st, we have spent about $16 million. We've got $52 million of that encumbered, and then about $30 million remaining left to spend. I know Michelle will tell you just in January, I think we spent probably another $1.5 to $2 million prep funds. So we are getting those out the door just as quick as we can. I believe her stat was that we have already surpassed airport draws and payments in the first 6 months of this year more than we did the entire fiscal year last year. So again, our finance staff is keeping up with the invoices coming in and getting payments out the door just as quick as we can. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Next, we have item 5, legislative, congressional, and regulatory update. Director Arties and Sandra, you are recognized.
Good morning, Commissioners. The legislative deadline was January 16th for bill filing in the Oklahoma legislature, and we have a new chair of Aerospace and Aeronautics. It's Senator Darcy Yeck, and our vice chair in the Senate for that committee is Senator Avery Fricks. The General Government and Transportation Appropriations Committee also received a new chairman, and that is Senator Tom Woods. And our vice chair is Senator Darrell Weaver. You might remember that Senator Weaver was the former director of the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, and he's also a pilot. In our House Transportation, we maintained and retained the chair, Nicole Miller, State Representative Nicole Miller from Deer Creek. And our vice chair is a new freshman lawmaker, Jason Blair. And Transportation Policy also, Ronnie Johns also remained the chair. The House of Representatives reports that they have filed over 1,928 bills and 29 House joint resolutions. And so I will be tracking these bills and I will be sending them to you, and then Director Artis is going to give you a more in-depth report about our legislative agenda.
All right, thank you, Sandra. Next is item 6, administrative rules for the Oklahoma Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics. Nope. Let's see, okay.
Commissioner, if you wouldn't mind, I do have a few things to say on item 5.
Sounds good. We'll back up there.
All right. Good morning. As Sandra mentioned, a lot of legislative initiatives filed. We're combing through those right now to find all the aerospace, aeronautics, aviation-related bills. First, I want to talk about our bills, the bills that we've made requests on. Most of these started on the Senate side. Obviously, it's not that we don't love the Senate more than the House. I think they would like to say that, but the senators don't have a bill request limit, and House members have an 8-bill limit. So we try and stay cognizant of that. The first bill, Senate Bill 135, is our engine test cell program. That's adding the space engine testing component that we have talked about previously. Senate Bill 920, Senate Bill 135 is Senator John Hast. He's Vice Chair of Appropriations. Senate Bill 920, Paul Racino, that's our UAS and AAM bill. It's expanding upon our authorities as the clearinghouse for UAS AAM activities. It's also updating the Airport Zoning Act in Title III to include things like vertiports and heliports. And as Sandra's putting on an eye chart test there on the screen, we'll make sure to send this to you via email so you can zoom in and see it later. But at the end of the day, the UAS AAM bill that we're proposing is to continue on showing that Oklahoma is forward-leaning and trying to be at the lead of the pack when it comes to the UAS and AAM industry, and making sure that we're seen as a fly-to state, not a fly-away state for this testing and development of this new technology. Senate Bill 236, that's also Senator John Hast. That is CMMC, that's the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Tax Incentive that we've talked about, that we know a lot of our DoD friends are going to have to comply with here in the next year or two, and certainly want to use this tax credit, one, to help out those companies, but two, also trying to use this as a recruitment tool to bring companies in from outside the state of Oklahoma and say, hey, do business with DoD, have that DoD contract in Oklahoma, and you can get this tax incentive to help you achieve your CMMC compliance. Senate Bill 296 by Adam Pugh. That is a simulator instructor tax credit. We're reviving this from several years back when he tried to run the bill. We know there's a great need for instructor pilots, both at Altus and Tinker Air Force Base, that work in the simulator realm, particularly the DoD contracts that several of those companies have. And so he has graciously tried to bring that bill back, and essentially it's just adding what is the existing engineer tax credit out there, $5,000 per person for 5 years. The company can get a tax incentive as well for the employees that they hire, and adding the simulator instructor as an option to the engineer tax credit for aerospace. Following that on, Adam Pugh also has Senate Bill 287, which is the extension of the engineer tax credits for aerospace. That sunsets at the end of this tax year that we are currently in. And so obviously, given that it's the number one aerospace specific incentive that we have in the state of Oklahoma, we want to be able to move that forward and continue that for another 6 years. We have Senate Bill 730. That's inserting our 5-year airport construction program into the Title III statutes. Just making sure one of the concepts or theories there was making sure that the state of Oklahoma and the ODAA, that we have the the fortified fortress that, yes, we are doing this 5-year airport construction program. Yes, we do have a long-term capital planning process. We're not just picking projects at random. There is a methodical element to this, and that as the legislature continues to invest money in our agency, in aviation infrastructure throughout Oklahoma, that we're doing it in a very judicial manner. And then our lone House bill that we're starting on the House side, House Bill 2026, that's a copy of the engine test cell bill in Senate Bill 135. You'll see here, this is just a list of various bills. Some of these may not be ours, some of them may be ours. The one that I would call to your attention that impacts us the most is Senate Bill 912. That's an item by Senator Paul Racino, and that is essentially bringing or merging the Space Industry Development Authority into our organization. He's had this idea, him and Senator John Hast have had this idea going back to last summer when I reported on the interim study on this particular issue. Reading through the bill, it doesn't appear to have any negative impacts on the agency. As you all recall, OSIDA was once a part of our organization. We used to be in the late 90s, early 2000s, the Aeronautics and Space Commission. And so this merger would put a few additional responsibilities on the agency, bring over that team, but leave the OSIDA entity as a Title 60 public trust, and essentially add 2 members to this board, what we would call space members, to bring in that space concept. And so that's my legislative report for the day. Obviously, we will send you all the aerospace bills and all the bills that may have an impact on the agency when Sandra has her spreadsheet, cheat sheet that she does so well on, and certainly happy to answer any questions that you guys might have of any of these bills or any bill that you might see out there in legislative session that causes you concern or you just may have some questions on.
Senator Racino's bill would add 2 members to this board?
So yeah, the the concept that he has is he brings space industry into the ODAA, essentially as it would take us from 7 to 9 members, and those 2 members would be space members. The hope, I think this is his hope, is that they would bring over 2 of the existing OSIDA board members and add them to our commission, and we would still be the Aerospace and Aeronautics Commission, but essentially we now have 9 members, 2 of which are designated as space members.
Interesting.
And it is convenient that we do have 2 extra chairs up there on the dais.
I thought those were for catering, but okay.
Any other discussion?
No, thank you.
Okay, now we're moving to item 6. Administrative rules for the Oklahoma Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics. Michelle, you're recognized. I try to call you up early.
I know. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For your consideration is recommended changes to the agency's administrative rules regarding Title 25. These changes are necessary to address funding and other program requirements implemented by items passed during the 2024 legislative session. We've broken these out. So first up, we're going to discuss or talk about item A, Chapter 15, the Airport Construction Program. So within your packet is the rule impact statement, which has a summary first paragraph. It's really straightforward, but I'm going to go ahead and read that for everyone. So refurbishment, remodel, and expansion of a terminal building and refurbishment of a sponsor-owned hangar have been added as acceptable rehabilitation projects under the ACP, with new construction or complete reconstruction of an existing terminal building considered eligible for funding, with state level and sponsor match requirements identified. Selection criteria for hangar construction projects has been modified to include that an airport sponsor must demonstrate an acceptable plan on how they will advertise for available hangar space once constructed. Maximum state level participation on fuel system projects was increased, and the requirement that they be in new condition and in compliance with local procurement procedures was added. Airport compliance was modified to reference terms and conditions, and definitions were clarified on NPE and project sketch. So a public hearing was held yesterday, Tuesday, January 21st. No one attended. However, we did receive public comment during the comment period from one individual electronically. Staff reviewed those recommended changes and determined that much of what they suggested we already do as a practice. in terms of public involvement and engagement. Additionally, they had recommended an electronic grant administration system, which is something staff is already considering as a matter of practice. So I will stand for any questions on item A.
Under definitions, I notice in here we define commission and department.
Right. Well, department had to be added previously.
Yes, thanks to Senator Racina's bill, I understand
Right.
that. But are we schizophrenic here?
Well,
Are we the Aeronautics Commission? Are we the Department of?
we are the department of, you are the commission board.
Swell.
Yes, try writing it in rules.
Yeah, okay.
Any other thoughts or questions before I move on?
Okay, do we have a motion to approve item 6?
This is only A, so I still have to do B.
Okay,
If you want to vote separately, we can do that.
good with the group?
I think
Just
we're good.
okay.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and move on to B real quick. Lost the page. All right, so item B, Aerospace and Aviation Education Grant Program. Again, you have a rule impact statement for this chapter, so that paragraph right there. The deadline for an acceptable, or for an applicant to submit closeout paperwork for a grant award was adjusted, and clarification on extension request was given. Clarification on what grant funds can be used towards was identified, including the start date and length of a program, eligible items, details of payments, changes in scope of a program, and unmanned aircraft system requirements. Procedures for requesting reimbursement have been identified. A new classroom laboratory development grant and internship or apprenticeship program have also been added, with details of eligibility and requirements for applying for each based on available budget. Okay, again, the public hearing was held yesterday. No one attended, and we did not receive any comments on this chapter. So I will stand for any questions, and staff does recommend approval on both chapters.
The only comment I would have is I read it at home, we intersperse commission with department repeatedly. And I wondered if that was intentional or was overlooked.
It is not overlooked.
Okay.
It is based upon the specific language and discussion of that sentence or topic, whether
Okay.
it be that you are voting versus what we as the department staff are doing in our facility, our job. I
to-
understand that it's confusing.
Good to know. All right, thank you.
Commissioner, if I may, think about it as the department is the state agency, and the commission is the governing board. So a lot of times in state structure, the commission is the board and the agency, which can be a little confusing because you reference the commission in one reference, and is that referencing the agency or the board? And so when the name change happened a year and a half ago, that's when we tried to separate and divest governing board from agency, and that's why you'll see it. It does cause Michelle a few headaches, but hopefully it clears everything up from a public perception standpoint, that you guys are the governing board, you guys approve all the activities that you approve, and then the department is the agency and the actual staff that executes the activities that you all approve.
Very good.
We'll give it a try.
Well, okay.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve item 6, that's A and B?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up is item 7, Airport Construction Grant Program Change Orders. Michelle, please continue.
Okay. So this change orders for the Airport Construction Grant Program, the first is going to just be informative. It's a project, a new taxi lane project at Okema Municipal Airport. So the amendment will allow for line item adjustments. Funding was moved from construction to cover utility work. Specifically, in lieu of relocating the gas line, the gas company had to cut and cap the existing gas line. This was done to accommodate grading and drainage for the project. The amendment does not increase the department's previously approved share. It just shuffles money around. So that one is gonna be item A. So item B is gonna be 2 executive box hangars at Okmulgee Regional Airport. After construction started, the airport received numerous rainfall events, and despite repeated drying efforts, the subgrade underneath the proposed hangars continued to be unstable due to moisture content. They determined that a layer of the clay beneath the subgrade was trapping the moisture, and so the change order allows for the removal of that unstable subgrade and to replace it with dry material for compaction levels. The estimated additional cost will be $57,404 with funding, federal funds of $31,572, state match of $22,961.60, and then the sponsor match of $2,870.40. So that is going to be item B. For item C, that is at Prague Municipal Airport. That is a 4-box hangar project that is ongoing. Similar with weather issues, because of the configuration of the airport, the only way to access the hangar construction site is via a gate on the south end of the airport and travel about 1,200 feet over grass. But because of all of the recent snowfall that they've had, the ground has become very unstable and it can't hold the heavy equipment any longer, and they can't take it over the airport pavement. So an all-weather gravel access road from the gate to the hangar site will be constructed. They're going to do that in a way so that it's located to allow for permanent location and use for future development. So that was already in their CIP, it's just they've had to bring it up. The estimated additional cost will be $30,126.40, and it will be funded with $16,569 of federal funds, $12,050.56 of state funds, and $1,506.84 of sponsor matching funds. So I will stand for any questions. Staff does recommend approval on items B and C.
Any questions?
With this slab on Unit B,
Mhm.
you know, are they doing a post tension slab? Do you know? What are they coming back in with material? Are they doing shale or do you know on the construction? I'm honestly just curious.
Craig is with Park Hill.
Yeah, it's just select fill material that they're bringing.
Copy that. You guys gonna try to get 80% compaction?
Yeah, typically we get 90.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Okay, do we have a motion
I so move for approval.
for B and C?
Yes,
Yeah. Second?
thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second, we'll call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Next item, 5-year airport construction grant program consent docket. Commissioners may request that any or all items on consent docket be considered individually. Nick, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. For my first item here, this is seeking to add a project into the airport construction program at Perry Municipal Airport as part of our hangar program. They will be seeking to construct up to 4 50 by 50 box hangars with a total project cost anticipated of $1.1 million, very similar to what we were talking about at Prague, also some hangars we done at Carnegie as well. Total project cost of the $1.1 million will be covered with 40% ODAA funds at $440,000, partnered with $605,000 FAA funds, and the local match there at $55,000. And so again, this item here is seeking to add that project to the ACP, and I stand for any questions.
Any questions?
What timeframe are we looking at construction?
So probably looking to get the design done. We'd be looking to build it out late this year. Could break ground late this year into the spring of the next year. Just kind of mainly right now that's been depending mostly on source material, how long it takes to get that on site.
So this is a pull forward from our previous plans before we had the funding.
Right, and so this one was one that we've had kind of on the back burner for a while, and we had it as a consideration for the hangar program for the past couple of years, and we're finally able to move the needle through the city council and get that approval here this week,
Okay.
so that we could continue with trying to add this to our hangar program.
That's all, okay. Okay, do we have a motion for item 8?
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Okay, motion passes. Next is item 9, airport project consultant approval consent docket. Commissioners may request that any or all items on consent docket be considered individually. Nick, please continue.
And just to clarify, this is for item 9 for the airport construction grant program consent docket rather than got it. Sorry, I think I mixed up my words there between that and 10. Just want to make sure I was reading on the right one.
Okay.
So apologize for that confusion. On this one, we got 2 items here that we're seeking approval from for items that are now in our ACP. The first one is the terminal building at El Reno Regional Airport that has recently gone through the bidding process, and the total project cost of that, based on those bids, $2,500,500. As part of our terminal program, the ODAA funds of that being $1 million, and the sponsor matching funds at $1,500,500. And we also have their new airport manager in attendance with us. So Scott, if you'd like to come say a few words, sir.
Good morning, Commission. I think I know most of you here, but for those of you who don't know me, my name's Scott Law. I'm the new airport manager out at El Reno, and we're making some great strides out there, and we really appreciate the Commission looking into helping us build this new FBO terminal. For those of you who don't know, El Reno Regional Airport was originally Mustang Field, which was an Army training base. So everything out there was actually built in 1942. But as things go, in 1942, they built things a lot better than we tend to build them today, and they're still in place. But we're looking forward to improving things out there and moving forward. Thank you very much for your time.
Scott, thank you. And I'd like to take a moment just to honor you too. You know, I've known you early in my 20s, and we served together on a flying club at Engineers that was, you know, based at Wiley Post, and you did 27 years on the fire department, and had a big impact on my life. So it's exciting to see you continue to serve at El Reno and what you're doing out there. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. And for item B on this one, this is to move right into the design phase of the Perry Municipal Airport project that we just added to the ACP for their 50 by 50 box hangars. Estimated cost of the design phase of this project is $85,800, with those same splits that we mentioned before of 40% ODAA at $34,320. And you will notice a typo there. Apologize for that. Currently says $34,329, but seeking $34,320 at our normal breakout for that, partnering with $47,190 of federal funds and $4,290 of sponsor matching funds. Staff recommends approval of these 2 projects, and I stand for any questions.
Any questions? Okay, do we have a motion to approve item 9?
I shall move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next order of business is item 10, 5010 Airport Master Record Inspection Update. Thomas, you recognized.
And I do apologize that Thomas isn't here, but again, I think for the item 10 here, I'm looking for the airport project consultant approval consent docket. I think we might have a numbering item on that script there, so my apologies on that.
Yeah, okay, it's off here, so, okay, please continue.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologies for that confusion. These items are broken out by themselves primarily because we are acting as agent for these 2 communities to help them through their process. And so the first one here is to act as agent for the Stan Stamper Municipal Airport as part of their preliminary engineering report for an upcoming discretionary project here in about 4 to 5 years as we look to do a major rehabilitation of runway 1735 out there. And so for this preliminary engineering report, those preliminary estimates for that look to be $58,317.95 to complete that report, which will give us all the preliminary information we need in order to program this appropriately and in the right timeframes, at the right funding costs, and at the right pathway forward for the construction methods as well. And so with that, for these PERs, they are typically state funded, and so the total project for that, $58,317.95 of state funds for that PER at Stan Stamper. For item B, this is going into design phase of the Tahlequah Municipal Airport. Their move to invest in some hangar infrastructure and taxi lanes out there. So this is a 9-unit T hangar, as well as a taxi lane to open up some additional area to allow for box hangars and larger hangars to be built, and the relocation of their AWAS system. And again, this is an airport where they have several hangars on the west side of the airport that currently are in existence that penetrate some imaginary surfaces. So we're been working with them to try to alleviate that issue and meet modern FAA standards. And so this is an all-encompassing project to move that over to the east side. And we do have some letters from those folks on the west side that have determined that they will move to the east side so long as we are able to complete these types of projects. And so looking for total project cost of this for the design phase, $276,000, $276,900, with partnering with some federal funds here, so the 95 and 5 split here, and of course with the federal 95-5 split on the federal level rather than the 90-10, looking at $249,210 of federal funds for this project, partnering for $13,845 of state and sponsor matching funds on this one. Again, this is for the design phase of all of those items there. Staff recommends approval of these two design projects as we act as agent for these communities, and I stand for any questions.
So you have an IDIQ contract for a contractor who could do separate task orders?
So we have draft contracts ready for these based on these scopes of work.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and that's item 10. So do we have a motion to approve item 10?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Okay, now it's the next order of business. This is item 11, at the 5010 Airport Master Record Inspection Update.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, Thomas, send our thoughts with him. He's been feeling quite ill this week, so I'll be taking over his items for this presentation. So the first one here for the 5010 Airport Master Record Inspection Update. Very proud to say that finally, after trying to get caught up from the COVID break that we had to take there for a while, there was quite the backlog. But thankfully, since we were able to get up to full staff there for a while, and now thankfully with Nancy on board, backed up to full staff again, we are on track and look to be continuing on track. So for last year, we continued with that inspection cycle with 44 total inspections. We inspect all of our GA airports on a 3-year cycle, so this is year 2 of that 3-year cycle. So we have completed all of 2024, and we have gotten a mini head start into the 2025 projects as we patiently await the spring inspection season so that we can go out there and hit those full force. But we have 41 inspections left on this year and certainly look to be on schedule for those. I stand for any questions that you may have about the 5010 inspections that we conduct.
Questions? Okay, next is item 12, Aircraft Pilot and Passenger Protection Act update.
Perfect. And with this one, another kind of standard year for us, which is always good. Anytime things can kind of stick to the normal script, the better we can handle all of the immense and exciting projects coming down the pike. So here in 2024, total actions on the APA side of things were 59. Those are actions on 36 wind turbines and 23 different miscellaneous structures, so anything from cell towers to buildings and any of the above, depending on its proximity to an airport and a runway. Of those, we have approved 54 of those. 2 of them have been terminated and only 3 are remaining pending. That 92% approval rate that we saw this year is pretty indicative of what a normal course of business looks like. Obviously, we had an anomaly last year that we're still working through up in Grove, but as we've continued with the APA process, the notification on the front end, those calls have been going very well. And obviously, that's very important to us so that we avoid any issues getting too late to the party to let folks know what their requirements are. So very good year, very good conversations with the folks that have reached out to us to help. And I do think it has been a very good year of kind of indicating the efforts our staff has taken to make sure that we get on the front end of these, both with having airports notify us of anything that looks even remotely suspicious to try to help early and often in that process. And even some of the developers that have had to kind of work with us have realized if they're around a different airport in a different part of the state that they know to call us early, and we can help them walk through that process. So communication from staff, I think, from a supervisor's perspective, has been going very, very well this year, and I think that's led to some really good successes as we continue to have a high success rate in letting folks know what's required of them on the front end. So happy to stand for any questions you have about the Pilot Passenger Protection Act that we do.
Questions? Okay, the next order of business is item 13, Wind Energy Development Act Compliance Update.
Perfect. And with this item, this is one where typically the Oklahoma Corporation Commission and our department will be notified of wind energy development projects as they are filing those with the FAA on the front end. And so with that, we have 8 notifications that came in this year. This is not including many of those conversations, kind of like I mentioned before with APA. All of these wind companies that you see listed here in that second column now call us at the very front end of any of their projects to help talk through those items to make sure that we're all crossing T's and dotting I's and talking to the right folks. Because at the end of the day, what we're looking for here with these notifications is that mission compliance letter from the Department of Defense, as you can see in that far right-hand column. And so what happens is that these notifications come to us from the wind company. We work with the Oklahoma Strategic Military Planning Commission to make sure that they're notified of where these locations are so that they are affecting any of their training routes. They can communicate with headquarters there in DC through the clearinghouse to let them know what those impacts might be, so that as they work through the process with the DC folks to draft that mission compliance letter, OSMPC's concerns are weighed into that, and so that we can protect our military training routes and continue the great air power that we have across the state of Oklahoma. So we have letters for every single one of the projects that we received this year except for one, and that one's still working through the mitigation process with both FAA and the DoD clearinghouse as they work through that to find the best locations for their structures. And with that, I stand for any questions you may have.
We have the equivalent of the zoning authority to approve or disapprove if they impact our training routes, don't we?
Yes, and so that's exactly what we're trying to do here, is just to make sure that the folks that have that say and can work through that process know early about what might be coming down the pike so that they don't wind up on the back end of that. Because it has been the case where things didn't quite get turned in exactly the way they were supposed to. There was some miscommunication, and then right before they were getting ready to build, they realized, oh, we don't actually have our mission compliance letter that states specifically the structures included, so we need to make sure that we get all those in a row. And so we've been able, over the past few years, in my 5 years here, we've taken tremendous strides in making sure that folks don't wind up in that situation where they're getting ready to build, because I mean that affects not only the companies but landowners and all those types of things. So the more in front of all of those issues we can get, the better we're all gonna be, and I think we've taken tremendous strides in doing that over the past 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you all very much.
Next order of business is item 14, 2024 Airport Construction Program Update. Katie, you're recognized.
Good morning, Commissioner Rainey and Commissioners. It's my pleasure to be here today to share with you all the construction projects that have been completed in 2024. The first one is Hooker Municipal Airport. We helped with the installation and construction of the self-service fuel system for 100 LL and Jet A fuels. Our portion was $513,000. The FAA contributed $415,000 for a total of $1.026 million. The next project is at Blackwell. This turned out wonderfully. We placed a 2-inch asphalt overlay on runway 1735, and we widened the runway by 15 feet. Our portion was $67,000. The local portion was $67,000, and the FAA contributed $1.2 million for a total of $1.3 million. In Boise City, we've constructed a new 100 LL Jet A split fuel system, and our portion was $285,000, which was matched the same with FAA, and the local contributed $30,000 for a total cost of $601,000. At Broken Bow, also, we constructed a self-service fuel system for 100 LL fuel, and we partnered with local, both contributing $253,000 for a total of $506,000. And the next project is the Buffalo Municipal Airport, where we rehabilitated the runway 1735, and that's a crack seal and seal coat. And the local share was $30,000. The FAA was $278,000 for a total of $309,000. And Chattanooga Sky Harbor, we excavated half of the existing apron and the taxiway, and we replaced it with concrete, and this project turned out beautifully. And the local contribution was $20,000, and we paid $380,000 for a total cost of $400,000. The next project is Chickasha, where we were able to construct 2 new 75-foot by 75-foot box hangars, and we paid $430,000. The local community paid $645,000 for a total of $1.075 million. At David J. Perry, we were able to replace 2 of the T-hanger structures that had been damaged by the tornadoes, and there are 19 new hangar spaces. And additionally, we replaced the pavements out in front with some new asphalt, and it turned out beautifully, as you can see from the picture. The local share was $684,000. We paid $1.394 million, and the FAA paid $449,000 for a total of $2.5 million. The next project is at El Reno. We got to rehabilitate the runway 1735 pavement, the runway lights and the pappies, and the local share was $55,000. The department was $549,000, and the FAA paid $500,000 for a total of $1.1 million. At Enid Woodring, we constructed a 120 by 120 foot joint use box hangar, and this is a beautiful and enormous hangar when you go out and see it. The local share was $960,000. We paid $640,000 for a total of $1.6 million. At Halliburton Field, this was an interesting project. We've got taxi lane construction, that was new. The middle portion is the rehabilitation of an existing apron, and the upside down U is the replacement of the apron with new concrete, and that turned out wonderfully as well. The local share was $98,000, the department share was $1 million, and the FAA matched us with $862,000 for a total of $1.9 million. And there you can just see some pictures. Very nice work. At Hefner Easley, they did a crack seal coat on runway 1836. The local share was $6,000. The department paid $132,000 for a total of $139,000 to get that project done. And then at McCurtain County Regional, we did a 2-inch asphalt overlay on runway 220, and we updated the lighting. The local share was $978,000. The department matched $202,000. The FAA paid $3.1 million for a total cost of $4.3 million. That turned out wonderfully as well. Out at Okemah, we constructed a new taxi lanes to support future hangar development, and the local share was $43,000. The department paid $824,000 for a total of $867,000. At Salisaw, we got some new LED runway lights installed, a new lighted windsock, and an electrical vault. The local share was $52,000. The department paid $112,000, and the FAA paid $423,000 for a total of $588,000. At Seminole, we got to realign Taxiway A to meet the current safety and FAA design standards. The local share was $170,000. The department share was $153,000, and the FAA paid $3.2 million for a total of $3.5 million. And at Seminole, we performed a crack seal and seal coat on runway 1634. The local share was $9,000. The department share was $179,000 for a total of $188,000. And out at Salisaw again, we rehabilitated the terminal apron and parallel taxiway with a crack seal coat. The local share is $10,000. The department share is $203,000 for a total of $214,000. At Hugo Stan Stamper Airport, we performed a crack seal and seal coat on runway 1735. The local share was $10,000. The department paid $200,000 for a total of $210,000 for the project. And out at West Woodward Airport, they constructed a new taxi lane, and that was quite a project. It turned out wonderfully, as you can see from the pictures with the new concrete out there. The local share was $95,000, the department's $222,000. The FAA matched $1.587 million for a total of $1.9 million. At William Pogue Municipal Airport, we rehabilitated the runway lights, signs, reels, and did a crack repair on the North Taxiway A. The local price for that was $73,000. We paid $621,000 for that, and we got an FAA match of $366,000 for a total cost of $1.06 million. And so this is just a summation of all the projects, all the local municipalities, which is amazing. They paid $4.3 million. And when you go out to these towns in rural Oklahoma, it doesn't sound like that much money, but it really is. You know, these towns are heavily invested in these projects. And that's one thing that doesn't come through in the slides, is we have these team meetings where we have progress updates every week with a lot of these larger projects. And always, these local municipalities have people on the team's meetings. They're heavily invested, and they care about these projects. So I just wanted you guys to know that. And additionally, yesterday, I was out at Elk City for a pre-pave conference. They're pre-paving out there. And it's where you make sure that the contractor is aware of all the specifications that they have to meet so that we get the pavement that we're paying for. And the city manager from Elk City was out there. And they're not the most exciting conferences. I think they're interesting, you know, where you're talking about the strength of the concrete or the compaction or the thickness of the pavements. But he sat through the whole thing, and he was heavily invested. So I just want you to know that these municipalities care, and they all thank you for supporting them. So, and additionally, our department last year, we paid $8.3 million, and the FAA granted us $12.7 million for a total of $25.5 million invested in Oklahoma, which I think is pretty darn amazing. So, and just one additional thing that doesn't come across in these slides that I also want to share is the immediate impact of these construction projects. When I go out to these airports, I get to talk to the managers, and I get to talk with the people and meet them. And so just two really quick things. At David J. Perry, as I said, we helped reconstruct the hangars out there. I think it was 19 hangars, and put the new apron pavements. And the city manager mentioned that he's finally going to be cash flow positive, which is amazing, from a tornado to cash flow positive. And then one additional thing is we had that snowstorm on January 10th, and the Enid joint use hangar, I heard from the contractor out there, he had to go fine tune the heater, and they had 9 T-38s parked there during the snowstorm to keep them safe and ready to protect us. Just immediately used and wonderful. So I'll stand for any questions you have about our construction projects.
Any questions?
Impressive report, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'd also like to take a opportunity to represent Nicole Miller that just stepped in, and you're responsible, your committee, for a lot of these projects, so we're super grateful for you, and thanks for being here. So, Katie, thank you. Next item is 15, Progressing Rural Economic Prosperity Prep Fund Update. Grayson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Commissioner. And yes, we do want our engineers to be excited about pre-paving conferences. That's why they're engineers, after
Yay.
all. Having sat through a few of those as a non-engineer, I can understand they are very technical in nature. Before we get started on prep, I know Chris mentioned it in his financial report, but as I had presented in the budget last week and before the Senate, and I'll mention again here at the House this week, but FY24, we had 220 draws for $16 million of state money. And through halfway of FY25, 224 draws for $19.5 million. So the financial staff and the team are getting money out the door, and they're doing it in record fashion, breaking all kinds of records for our agency. And so you guys should be very proud. And of course, a lot of that is due to prep, and what prep started us off on this journey, going on almost 2.5 years now. But if you would see some of the projects that are out there, and you saw some of the ones on this slide, all those hangars that Katie reported on were because of prep. Those were all part of the competitive prep program. And obviously we have the 4 big prep projects, which are under various states of construction. Saw some pictures the other day of Elk City, of Woodward, Ardmore, Will Rogers. If you guys are hopping on a commercial flight, you can see all the activity happening there on the north end of AAR. And then I just saw a picture of some of the construction work happening at the Tulsa Tower. It's really going to be pretty amazing. I can't wait to see what Katie's report looks like at the conclusion of 2025, because I think there will be probably double the amount of slides, if not more, of projects that we will have completed this year. And you know, Prep 1.0 I think was a great success for aerospace and aviation. I know in the budget hearings and discussions, there's been some mutterings of potential Prep 2.0 or 3.0, depending on what time frame you're working on. And so we obviously always want to keep projects and ideas at the forefront for how the aviation system, the airport system of the state of Oklahoma could take advantage of additional injections of investment. So Prep I think is where it all started. I know we started getting regular recurring appropriations prior to Prep by about a year and a half, but I see Prep as being the true launch pad for success for the aviation aerospace industry, and what has allowed us to do a lot of the success that we've had, and obviously that's translated into recurring regular appropriations and everything else that this agency's been able to do. So it's a fun time to be in the infrastructure business. You know, the only downside is where we're at with inflation. I said if I had to change everything, I would have gotten the money 6 years sooner, where I didn't have to deal with inflation. But you know, you can't be picky, and so we're just glad to have the money, and we are certainly trying to put it to good use as best as we can on behalf of the taxpayer of Oklahoma. So, that being said, I'll certainly stand for any questions, and would encourage you all to get out there and attend some of our groundbreakings and celebrations that we have this year. I know we're gonna have a bunch, right, Sandra, Caitlin?
Any questions? Thank you, Grayson.
Thank you.
Okay, next order of business is item 16, Aerospace and Aviation Education Program Update. Paula, you're recognized.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm always excited to be here and share the work that we've been doing. You've heard me say many times, you can't call a school superintendent and say, why don't you start an aerospace or an aviation program? Good luck. You know, it really takes in-person visits, lengthy visits with them to walk them through that process and how we might be able to help them. So we've been on the road, as we always are, visiting schools in the past few weeks. I had the opportunity to go to Marlow. The superintendent at Marlow is a former Representative Corey Holland. And after I finished visiting with him, he said, this is awesome. I'm so glad to hear about this opportunity. And I said, Mr. Superintendent, are you aware that one of your former students many, many hundred years ago was Pearl Carter Scott? And he said, yes, I am aware of that. And I said, well, we celebrate her with Women in Aviation regularly as America's youngest pilot, and she's one of yours. And he said, yes, and I think I'm going to name my new aviation lab the Pearl Carter Scott Aviation Lab, which is exciting, and to be able to cross over the work we've always been doing in her honor at Marlow Public Schools. So I think that they will move forward. Last week, Stephanie and I had the opportunity to finally take the Northwest Passage to the Panhandle, and I am just telling you, they were thrilled. We started at Woodward, and then we went to Laverne. We went to Goodwill, and we went to Guyman, and in each of those places, we had 2 or 3 hour meeting with those school leaders, and every one of them were on board. And the superintendent at Goodwill said, this is amazing. I didn't know anything about this. It made me feel, like I wish we had been there earlier, because finally we are reaching all areas of the state with our message and the importance this is for the students of Oklahoma. Yesterday, Stephanie and I were at Hilldale outside of Muskogee, and then went in the afternoon to Glenpool. Both schools very interested. So if you're wondering, what does it look like for next year, I would say probably an additional 20, maybe a few more than that, schools added to our existing list. And again, to this team behind me, we can't do this by ourselves, and they support all the programming that we build. So we're excited about these opportunities, and we have several other school visits set up within the next few weeks. in that pathway that I've talked about many times, we are finally to the point that many of these schools are offering their juniors, sophomore, junior, senior classes. And that means the kids are getting older, which means they can sit for the private pilot written, which means they can solo. And we're seeing those things happen. And so to celebrate that, and I appreciate Stephanie's work, she's put together an Oklahoma Aviation Student of the Month program and allowed these instructors then to nominate the students once a month to be recognized. That young man is Nicholas Rowland from Pryor High School. Nicholas passed his Part 107 year before last. He has formed his own LLC. He spoke at our drone festival in Tulsa, and Dr. Jacob from Oklahoma State turned to me and he said, "Who is that?" I mean, that young man got up and spoke about his work on the ranch with drones and how he is helping his family and other ranchers utilize that to measure herd, and it was just remarkable hearing a 17-year-old man, a young man, talk about what aerospace has meant to his life. The young lady that was awarded the January Student of the Month is Emmy Tucker from Piedmont High School, and she's a member of EAA. She's a member of 99s. She was asked to be a co-pilot in the Okie Derby, and she was so honored. And so again, these young people taking over the roles that many of us have celebrated over the past few years, and to look at the kids coming through. And I hope someday that we have some hard data, that we'll be able to say that the work we have done, these many people have passed the written or have received their private pilot's license, this many on to post-secondary aviation programs. So we're excited about the Students of the Month, and we've already moved to get the February nominations, are in the process of knowing who those will be. In the events category, Oklahoma City Thunder Aero Day is tomorrow. The kids come in, and they around the arena, outside in the hallways, booths. There are speakers, there's a panel, and then in the evening, the kids come back in, and they'll be playing Dallas Mavericks tomorrow night, and the students and the teachers will be there as part of that celebration. So we're glad to be a part of that. As you can imagine, for many of those kids, it's an opportunity that they have never had, and so that's remarkable. We also have started our Bessie Coleman Aviation All-Star After School program. I've spoken to you about that many times. We met with McAllister Public School principal and the teacher that will be leading that, and the Ada public school teacher that will be leading that. We've met with them. We've ordered the supplies. It will be a 10-week program beginning February 5th. Each week, those kids will stay after school. They're sixth graders, and they get to hear a pilot from O'Hare. They get to hear a speaker from the FAA in Washington, D.C. They get to hear my sister, a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines. So we've pulled in all our resources, as you can see. But they have every week a new career that they get to hear about and learn how the folks that are speaking to them have reached that success in their career. So we'll begin that February 5th, once a week on Wednesdays. And then finally, we're really looking forward to a new program that we're partnering with Flight Safety International in Broken Arrow. The folks at Flight Safety International have been doing yeoman's work on our behalf. They're going to bring the teachers in for a 2-day simulator training, and they're going to let them work with their lead engineers on how the big simulators, I don't know if you've ever been to Flight Safety. Grayson crashed one of them, not recently when we were there. Yeah.
He's an instructor pilot.
Yes, exactly.
Not my finest hour.
But it's going to be a great thing for our instructors to bring the industry to them, the skills from that entity to share with the teachers. We're so excited about that. And then I think even more exciting is that next year Flight Safety wants to hold a state championship simulator competition, where all of the students in the AOPA pathway will take a basic written knowledge. They'll form their teams that will go to the next level. Then they'll go to the next level and end at Flight Safety. And I think at Tulsa Community College has volunteered to host that. but we're working toward the first flight simulator championship for the state of Oklahoma. So a lot of good things, positive things going on, and I'm thrilled to be part of it, and I'm also honored to stand for any questions you might have.
How many high schools do we have in the program now?
This year, we have 117
117?
currently. Yeah.
20 more?
And probably 20. Depends on how much gasoline we've got. But yes, about 20 more.
And there's what, like 500 some odd in the state?
Yes, about 500 districts. There are a few more high schools than that because obviously some districts have more than one high school.
Okay,
But
thank you.
yes,
Great report.
Yeah, great
Thank
job.
you.
Great
You're
job.
doing a super job.
Paul,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Next up is item 17, preview of upcoming aviation and aerospace events. Sandra, you're recognized.
I always like to go after Paula because she puts you guys in a good mood. So on March 8th, the OSU Flying Aggies are having a fly-in. We're excited about the upcoming flying season, and I know that we've had so many airport improvements. We hope that our aviators in the state will get out and enjoy the Oklahoma airport system. Aero Day at the Capitol is April 2nd, and we would really like for all of our commissioners to come, but don't stand together because that would be a quorum. So the ODA fly-in is going to be April 29th through the 30th. And Wings, Wheels, and Wishes is going to be June 7th, and the Tinker Air Show is the 28th of June. So we look forward to having you guys with us. As we start getting into the flying season, if the flying public would let me know, we will share that on our social media channels and on our website. So thanks so much. Also, don't forget the Fly Oklahoma mobile app. Chris has several things planned for 2025, so we look forward to people getting out there flying and earning those patches. So I stand for any questions.
Questions? Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item number 18, Director's Report. Grayson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be brief with the director's report. Had a couple of engagements that I wanted to bring to your attention. First is a meeting with Lufthansa Technique. As you know, we are supporting them in their engine test cell efforts thanks to the legislature's direction of funds to us for the engine test cell program during last session's efforts. And so had some conversations with them. Obviously, Lufthansa is very much on the civilian commercial side. They're very interested in how they can maybe take advantage of some of the DoD work that happens here in Oklahoma. So we had a good brainstorming session with them and some other leadership from around the state to just kind of discuss how can they do more business for the state of Oklahoma and ensuring that their plan of action to grow Lufthansa in the Tulsa area is going to be a staple for the state of Oklahoma. So that happened on December 13th. December 16th, I presented it to the Shawnee City Commission meeting and the Shawnee Airport Authority about their CIP. And so as we've had previous discussions, the City of Shawnee has put us in the catbird seat for the direction of their CIP and helping them with some of their recovery efforts from the tornado and some of their development efforts with the funds the legislature has provided our agency directed at Shawnee. And so presented to them in excess of $25 million, $30 million CIP at their December 16th commission meeting, which they approved. Met December 20th with CAE, and for that one, for the record, I did land the AWACS. It was the darn Airbus side stick that got me at flight safety. Something about that side stick, can't do it. I don't know. Haven't got used to it. Maybe that's why I'm a Boeing guy. Anyway, landed the 707 successfully, could not dock up and refuel. I wasn't good enough for that. But I will say the conversation about how they support some of the DoD activities at Tinker Air Force Base, but then also just getting in the simulator with some professionals and seeing how they have to work, how hard they have to work to do air-to-air refueling is truly, man, I'm glad I'm not an Air Force pilot having to do air-to-air refueling. That, you talk about stressful, that is probably the most stressful aviation activity I think there is on planet Earth right there. So, but it was a good conversation and very supportive of what they're doing for Tinker Air Force Base. And then last but not least was our Senate budget hearing last week on January 15th, presented to the Senate General Government and Transportation Appropriation Subcommittee. Talked to them about our budget request, successes of the last year, challenges moving forward, and then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we're going to do the same for the House tomorrow. So certainly a good slate of activities happening between here and our last meeting, and looking forward to seeing what the rest of 2025 has to offer. But I'll stand for any questions on topics that you guys might have.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Grayson. Now we have item 19, concluding remarks. Are there any additional comments from staff or commissioners?
None from me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, hearing none, next item will be item 20, announcement of next meeting. Our next scheduled special meeting will be at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, March 12th, 2025, here in the first floor conference room at the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. And item 21, Director, is there any new business? No business. Okay, there's no further business. Move to adjournment.
I so move.
Second. Okay, I declare this meeting adjourned, and we'll see you guys in March.